That's the best use of nepotism I've ever seen. Do it right! Hey nerds, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be ranking all the movies in the Child's Play franchise. But before we get into that, I just want to thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Now let's get into this. Before we jump into the ranking, I just want to say thank you guys for interacting with my Haunting Adeline video. Long story short, the girls are fighting. I'm not condoning the fighting, but I'm just letting you know the girls are fighting. But if you missed that video, it's right here, link in the description. So do y'all remember 2 years ago when I started doing the ranking series for like horror franchises? I did a poll. The next ranking video was supposed to be, you know, me ranking all of the movies in the Friday the 13th franchise. Well, there's a reason why that's not what this video is. Listen, I tried, and I learned two things. One, I did not watch all of the movies all the way through like I thought I did in the past. And two, why are the first three so hard to get through? I might try it again, you know, to give it a fair shot and actually rank all of the movies. But those first three had me falling asleep. I had to keep restarting the movie, girl. And this is no shade to the movies at all. It is just me. But yeah, it wasn't fun for y'all let me know if y'all actually want me to rank the Friday the 13th franchise, and I will. I will do my damnedest to stay awake and actually watch all of the movies. So I'm gonna do this list from lowest to highest, like ranking wise. And this is strictly my opinion. This is not fact. If you have different opinions about the movies, feel free to share them, okay? All right, so there's 7 movies in the Child's Play franchise. No, I am not counting the remake in 2019 with the Buddy doll. No, that is disrespectful. And that movie was made against Don Mancini's wishes. Don Mancini is the creator of Chucky. And so no, I'm not gonna rank that one. And it's not canonically involved with the others, so it's not a part of this ranking. All right, coming in last place at number 7, we have Seed of Chucky. Don't hop on my neck, please. First thing I want to say, what the f were they thinking? This one was definitely a fever dream, and this is that one in the franchise. And what I mean by that is, so this happens in the horror genre a lot. So when you have these really long franchises, there's that one, or maybe it's two, that kind of cross over into like campy horror, and it's like a horror comedy, which is fine. We love campy horror, we love, you know, horror comedy, but those are like the odd ones, the weird ones. And again, nothing wrong with odd or weirdness, but they're not that good most of the time. And this happens to be this franchise's, you know, weird odd one out. Even though this one isn't my favorite, it was oddly progressive for its time. And I'm talking about Glenn/Glenda. Making the connection and kind of putting it in the forefront of the story that they might be bi-gender or non-binary was very ahead of its time. And I know that in the Chucky series, they actually had a non-binary actor play both Glenn and Glenda, but I don't know too much more about it because I only saw half of season 1. I know there's like, what, 3 seasons now? I have to get into that, but back to what I was saying. But yeah, like I said, this one's not my favorite if I'm being completely honest. And don't get me wrong, it's good, campy fun, and sometimes we need that. But I feel like tone-wise, it is completely separated from the other films in the franchise. Seed of Chucky gives comedy sketch show, and to be honest, I was not really that much of a fan of it either when I was younger. Seed of Chucky was also like the most unserious film, but I will say this, I will give it this. It really did a good job of holding up franchise lore and continuity. I can't take this one seriously, and maybe it wasn't meant to be taken seriously, but yeah, she's at the bottom of the list. If I had to rate it, I would say 3 out of 10. You know, because it just feels very gimmicky. I really felt like Chucky and Tiffany were shoehorned into gimmicky versions of themselves, but hey, that's That's just my opinion. At number 6, we have Curse of Chucky. This one comes after Seed, and it was, what, 9 years in between release dates? I think it was during that era where a lot of horror movies were being remade for like that 2010s, you know, audience. This wasn't a remake, but it was kind of catching on to like the hype of the remakes coming out at that time. And I just gotta say, Don Mancini ate when he casted Fiona Dourif as Nika in this movie. And if you don't know, Fiona Dourif is Brad Dourif's daughter, the voice of Chucky. Like, how iconic is it that you're playing alongside one of horror's most iconic slashers and then having that iconic slasher be your dad? That sounds like the coolest job in the world. Like, acting already is a very fun thing to do, and like, you know, having that as your job is already so fun, but then doing it with your dad, who's like a horror icon, girl, how lucky are you? That's the best use of nepotism I've ever seen. Do it right. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but Curse of Chucky felt like a TV movie. It felt like it was, you know, made on Sci-Fi, like the channel, and I'm not just saying that because that's where the series was being aired. And I think I feel that way because it was straight to video or straight to DVD, but like it just kind of gave that vibe of it being a TV movie. I also am not a fan of Chucky's look in this movie. I know nearly 10 years later it's gonna be next to impossible to replicate the look that you had before, but this model of him just looks awful. He looks like somebody's unhinged auntie with the bob. Bob. And unfortunately, Chucky gets back to hanging around kids, so that's not good. Do y'all remember that asshole husband trope I talked about in my video about 3 years ago? Nika's sister, Barb, she exhibits that very trope, but honestly, I didn't mind it. It was a very interesting choice. Usually it's like the male love interest, whether it be a boyfriend or a husband, saying, oh, there's no such thing as ghosts, you're just imagining things, or you seem tired, you need to rest, or, you know, this isn't you, I'm taking the kids, da 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 da. It's usually a man doing that, but then we have the eldest sister doing that. I said, okay, switch it up, flip it and reverse it, alright. Now, even though Curse of Chucky is ranked low on my list, I will say that I do appreciate the back to basics formula that the movie shows us. Especially reverting back to that delayed gratification that we don't see Chucky until like 45 minutes into the film, about halfway through. And this is a random thought that I had as I was rewatching the movie, but why was Julie's death so anticlimactic? Was that just me? Am I tripping, or was it not giving what it was supposed to have gave? I was expecting a lot more thrashing and jerking, you know, watching someone being electrocuted. Or maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, I've never been electrocuted before. And I'd like to also share this, and I hope this doesn't come across as ableist. I think Nika's disability amplifies the horror of the entire situation. Like, imagine being chased by a killer doll and you can't run away. Or you can, but you're not fast enough to save yourself or your loved ones. But she turns it around and she uses it to her advantage. She took that knife in the knee like a G. Took it like a G, that's a badass bitch. But yeah, Fiona acted her ass off. I like that we had the representation of a disabled individual, but I don't know how I feel about having an able-bodied person depict that. I feel like that there are actors and actresses with disabilities that could have done this role just as well, but I will leave it alone. So for this next thought, I might be in the minority, but did anyone else find the backstory in this movie random as fuck, or was that, am I not getting it? Because I've seen this movie a few times, and I think this was like maybe my 4th time watching it, like this past week, so I could take notes, but like this came out of left field, and it makes Chucky, or should I say Charles, look like a fucking loser, you know, a pathetic loser who's obsessed with someone. Whereas in the very first time we see him in the original, he appears to be a ruthless psychopath who doesn't give a I will say, I like that they brought Alex Vincent back to reprise his role as Andy. That ate. They ate with that, yes. If I had to rank this one, it's much more bearable than watching Seed of Chucky, so I'd probably give it like a 5 out of 10. I just feel like the kills in this one weren't all of that. Like, they were, you know, a lot of people was missing eyes, because like, you know, Jane, after she got barbed, or Jane, her name is Julie, after Julie literally got barbecued, her eye blew out, and then when Chucky found Barb, he took her eye out. Like, what is it with the eyes? Are we trying to like do like some symbolism or what? The kills were okay. It was alright. Alright, at number 5, we have Cult of Chucky. This one came after Curse. Like, right off the bat, I do not appreciate the way Tiffany / Jennifer Tilly's character was shoehorned into a caricature. And I know that Jennifer Tilly loves the franchise. She loves Don Mancini and she loves playing this role, so I won't go too hard on it, but it just felt, like I said, for C, it just felt gimmicky. I also wasn't moved by like the plot twist of multiple Chuckies running around. And it's not like it hasn't been done before, but 50 of these motherfuckers. And I feel like if the writers weren't careful enough, and they usually are because this franchise is the most consistent with its lore, I feel like if they weren't careful enough, the soul splitting thing could have made for a very slippery slope where continuity is concerned. Because my question is, or was when I first saw it, was who in the hell was in the Tiffany doll? And now that I rewatched it recently, I'm like, okay, maybe she split her soul between, you know, Jennifer Tilly's body and the doll, like just like Charles is in 50 other dolls and Nika at the same time. So I know that now. And then I saw some theories, like as I was doing research, I was like seeing people say, oh, Alice is in the doll. And I'm like, I don't think so. Because if that was her, wouldn't we hear Alice's voice coming out of the doll? And then also I had that same question with Nika. I was like, wouldn't we hear Chucky's voice coming out of her? Because she's possessed by Chucky, but since there was already a soul in that body as like main driver, she's still like, you know what I'm talking about? Maybe I'm getting too deep into it. I don't know. Something I did like was how this movie paid homage to a film that Brad Dourif was in, and that is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You can see the inspiration, and not just in the overall setting itself, which is an insane asylum. It's just having that very clean-cut, sterilized aesthetic was very deceiving and misleading, so it made it even scarier. The deaths, they was cool, I guess. Like, they were fine. Claire's death was a carbon copy of the honeymooners from Bride of Chucky. I know that's very nitpicky of me to say, but it's literally the same. It's the same concept. It was just a different doll who did it. I do like how Don Mancini approached the same person stuck in an insane asylum trope. Actually, one of my favorite tropes in the genre. He did it very well. A development within Chucky that I find very funny is that even though he's a homicidal maniac, he still has his limits. He still has some morals. Like when he sees Dr. Foley doing some shit to Nika, and he's like, bro, is you cool? And in the series, when he's with Jake and he basically says he's an ally because his kid's gender fluid, it was like, I'm homicidal, not homophobic. It was something like that. But if I had to rate this one, I would say 6 out of 10. I like it better than Curse and Seed, but it wasn't doing too much more than Curse. But you know, I still like it a little bit better. All right, coming in at number 4, we have Child's Play 3. First, they did not have to start the movie off like that. I forget about the jump scare at the beginning too, but can we talk about how nasty that opening sequence was? I love it, it's so good. As I was re-familiarizing myself with the franchise, I had the same question for the first 3 movies. Why does the body that Chucky has to transfer his soul into, why does it have to be that of a child? Why? And I get it, he's a doll and it works best that way because adults don't play with toys, so he can't really get to them that way without, you know, them freaking out. I get it. But children? You're weird as f, Charles. And then we know John said that it had to be the first person that Chucky revealed his true self to, and it was Andy in the first 2. Andy is older, but he's still a child. And then you go after another child, a younger child. Charles, you weird as f. And speaking of Andy, they was punking the hell out of that man. He could not catch a break in that military school. Moving on to another character, De Silva. My main thought when I was rewatching this, because I've seen it before, but I was like, she grown as f. Is she not grown as f? And then after doing some research, I found out that the actor that played Andy was 16 and De Silva's actress was 20 at the time. So not only was Andy's actor underage, red flag. In my opinion, I believe this is the point in the franchise where Chucky stopped giving a f. He was so desperate for a body, he was mowing everybody down, children included. And here's a little fun fact for you if you didn't already know, but this is Don Mancini's least favorite entry in the franchise. And apparently the die-hard Chucky fans agreed this is the worst one. It's not so bad to me, in my opinion, but it, you know, it's I don't mind it because I feel like the cast was very strong and we see how Andy got to deal with his trauma a little later on in his life. And another thing I do appreciate about Child's Play 3 is that we kind of see that slow but sure transition into campy horror, because you know, Chucky had like 8 million one-liners in this one. My favorite one being "Don't f with the Chuck." That one's a good one. That's a good one. And taking a deeper look into things, Child's Play 3 has a commentary on gender norms. More specifically, traditional gender norms and what people think boys and girls should be doing or who they should be. And we mainly see this with De Silva's character. But we also see it from the authority in this movie when it comes to Taylor's choice of toys. You know, boys don't play with dolls. Sure they do. Yes they do. And I do think at this point in the franchise, the kills were starting to become more creative and they really did pack a punch. Now if I had to rate this one, I would say 6.5 out of 10. Like, it's not like wow, but like, you know, I didn't mind this one, even though this one is not the creator's favorite and majority of the fans don't like it either, but 6.5, it was cool. It was nice. I like it better than the other ones at the bottom of the list. Now we're getting into top 3. Yeah. Coming in at number 3, we have Bride of Chucky. This was the first Chucky movie I ever watched in its entirety, and I was young, as many of us were. And it was the one I always heard about when I would ask about, you know, Chucky. They would bring up this movie. And then our leading lady is the titular Jennifer Tilly. When I was younger, I wanted to embody the energy that she had so bad. She was the sexy goth girlfriend with big boobies. I got the boobie part down at least. And Tiffany was the personification of a ride or die. She was not playing, okay? And this movie has my favorite iteration of Chucky's appearance. His Frankenstein aesthetic was his scariest, in my opinion. Speaking of which, I love the Frankenstein inspo that this, you know, this movie follows, and y'all know I love me some Frankenstein. The kills were much more inventive and creative this time around. Damien's piercing being ripped out and him being suffocated, ballsy. The couple under the mirror, genius. The nails being launched into Warren's face, brilliant. Now, I think the reason why I like this one so much is the soundtrack. The soundtrack was it. Soundtrack was it. I also think that's why it's the cult classic that it is, because the soundtrack is so good. And I also really enjoy the vibe of Bride of Chucky. It's much more gothic and dark. And finally, Chucky stopped obsessing over children in this one. Like, ugh. Finally. I mean, they were still considered legally children, you know, Jesse and Jade, but at least they were a little bit older, but still. Quit being weird. If I had to rate this one, it would be an 8 out of 10. I'll rate this one an 8 out of 10. This one, yeah, one of my favorites for sure. Alright, coming in at number 2, we have the original Child's Play. Now, this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and it still is, but in this ranking, it comes at a close second to the last entry on this list. And rewatching it, you know, I hadn't seen it in a while. I was like, why the hell did John give Chucky access to voodoo? That is a close practice, especially to those of a lighter hue. And this is why I love the movie, because there's such strong commentary to be talked about here. And if you take anything away from this killer doll slasher from the 80s, let it be this: believe your children. Because be for real, you see your child is exhibiting strange behaviors that they never had before and you're not questioning it. What are you doing? You set yourself up for failure. Because if my child came up to me and said, "Mommy, my toys told me that," you said enough. You said enough. I'm either getting my child some help or I'm calling a shaman, because f that. An element that I feel gets overlooked when it comes to the Child's Play franchise and the original, you know, being more specific, is that he is so scarily good at being a master manipulator. And it's not hard to do when it's a child, so, you know, won't give him too much credit, but still. And we know he loves the violence and the bloodshed, but he's too good at playing mind games. He made Karen go batshit and appears an unfit mother. Going back to what I was speaking on earlier, I love the fact that they did not reveal Chucky, you know, in full effect until the halfway point of the movie. The anticipation and the delayed gratification was definitely worth it. And it was a very refreshing spin on possessed toys, especially coming out in the time that it did. And Brad Dourif, excellent in this role. This role was literally meant for him. I can't imagine anyone else being Chucky now that I'm thinking about it. And the horror fans know that Brad and horror go together real bad. And this movie is also just kind of like a testament, a time capsule of 80s horror films. And you can see the difference of the decades as we move through the franchise, but Child's Play is quintessential 80s. I can't describe it any other way. And doubling back to the possessed toy bit, this movie is so iconic that it terrified an entire generation into being scared of dolls, me included. The original Child's Play will always have my respect. That's why it's one of my most favorite horror movies of all time, because, you know, it did something new at the time, and you know, it really made its mark in the genre, and he's up there with the greatest of slashers, so kudos. Also, Chucky is the only other slasher that is both menacing and witty. And for its time, the special and visual effects were very good. And using little people as stunt doubles for the doll to make it more realistic, that was a stroke of genius. If I had to rate this one, 9 out of 10, for sure. Always love the original. Coming to a close, and at the #1 spot in my ranking for this franchise, we have Child's Play 2. The first thing I want to point out for this movie is the drastic change we see in Andy. This poor baby has been tortured and traumatized, and that caused him to grow up a little faster than he was supposed to. It reminds me of Clementine from the Telltale's Walking Dead. Still a kid, but has an eerily mature, you know, point of view on things. And he was so desensitized, I fear, that almost crashing into an 18-wheeler that advertised the very thing that gave him that trauma didn't get a big reaction out of him. Now moving on to Joanne and Phil, worst foster parents ever. Oh my gosh. Y'all were heavily informed of this child's past, and y'all wasn't showing enough compassion for me, okay? Again, believe the children. Moving on to Kyle. She was that girl. She was always that girl. She's my favorite part of this movie for sure, and she's such an underrated final girl. Like, no one ever talks about Kyle. Put some respect on Kyle's name. I like her development as well. You know, she wasn't keen on Andy coming into the house because she didn't even want to be there herself. But seeing her warm up to Andy and kind of step into her role as big sister was just too cute. And it felt organic. It was very believable. I also enjoy the atmosphere shift that we get from going from Child's Play to Child's Play 2. We started out in the cold industrial streets of Chicago, and now we're in the unsettling cleanliness of the suburbs. The commentary on the foster care system is also something that, you know, makes a presence in this movie. The idea and the very real occurrence that foster parents appear good on paper and qualified on paper, and then in reality not being fit to take care of the children either, is something that happens all of the time. And we saw that Joanne and Phil were emotionally neglectful, and that is the case, you know, when it comes to some foster children. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And another random thought that creeped into my mind as I was rewatching this, I was thinking, now this is how you know this was the 90s, because did y'all see how Miss Kettlewell was handling Andy? And also, sorry, when Chucky attacked Kyle and the way that he was kicking his feet, that will never not be funny to me, because that looks ridiculous. My favorite part would have to be like the final showdown of the movie. It felt like they were in a back room, like an abandoned toy factory. That's like, what back room level is that? And of course, Andy holds on to his title, you know, being in the Final Boy Hall of Fame. I didn't realize it before, but the Final Boy trope is very interesting, and it's not talked about enough. I recently watched a video that goes deeper into the Final Boy trope by the creator Zane Parker. I just found his channel not too long ago, and let me say, I am in love. His content is so fun, but he brings a very intellectual point of view when he's talking about films. And he did a great job expounding upon the history and the kind of, you know, commentary that goes into the final boy trope. So go watch that video if you haven't. Zane Parker is a G. But if I had to rank Child's Play 2 10 out of 10, like that's my favorite one in the franchise for sure. So here's the list. It's how I rank them, okay? Don't come for me, it's just an opinion, darling. But yeah, that is my ranking of the entire Child's Play franchise, and I did not include the remake because that would just be disrespectful. But yeah, I'm done. Yeah, so that concludes our video for today. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. And if you made it to the end of this video, comment a knife, because that's Chucky's favorite weapon of choice. And if you guys want me to rank another horror franchise, just let me know. Maybe I'll do the polls again, but yeah, just talk to me, holla at me, and subscribe if you want to. I'll see y'all on the next go around. Okay, bye.